Good morning. Welcome to Monday Morning Coffee and Chat with Hallee Bridgeman. I'm so happy you could join me. I have my cup of coffee, so I hope you have a cup of coffee or tea or whatever you drink and you have a few minutes while we chat. So we're coming off of the weekend of celebrating, for some of us celebrating Passover, First Fruits, Resurrection Sunday. It's like this huge, massive celebration weekend. I love it. And I loved our chapel service at Fort Knox yesterday. We have an orchestra that's composed of mostly high school students, but there's a few adults, and one of the adults is the bass player. You know, the big, looks like a cello to me. Anyway, he convinced them to do the Hallelujah chorus, which is so incredible. And we had like French horn, clarinet, violins, piano, bass. It was so beautiful. And it kind of set the tone for the entire service. It was like overwhelmingly emotional for me. And then the boys and I watched The Passion of the Christ last night, which was hard to let them watch. It was hard to watch. I remember when I saw it in the theater, when we sat down, I knew what was coming because intellectually I knew about the treatment that Christ received and, you know, the beating and everything. And so when I sat down in the theater and the lights went dim, I like started to get up, like, I can't do this. And Greg held my hand and he's like, we can do this. We'll watch this. And so when I got done with that, I'm like, whoa, I've seen that now. I've seen it. Now I never have to see it again. And then I watched it with Kaylee when she was older, and then now with the boys. And so I'm like, whoo, now I never have to watch that again. It's hard to watch. It's hard to watch what Christ, the man, went through in order to redeem us of our sins. And the idea that if I was the only person he had to do that for, he would do it. And I have a really I get overwhelmed with the thought of it, especially once you understand that it's not this pretty, you know, it wasn't this pretty thing. It was horrible. So I think it's important to see it because I think that at the time that the New Testament letters were being written and the Gospels, the people that were reading them or hearing it understood exactly what had happened because that was their culture. But we don't. We have no concept of it. And so it's important, I think, to get a concept of it so that you have a full understanding of what the sacrifice was. So that was our Sunday. And now I'm deep in the deadline of finishing the first book in that Small Town Kentucky series. And so I'm so excited to tell you that we finally came up with a series title. And you know, I've been planning this for years, and it's been in the back of my mind for years, and we've been thinking about it for years. And so when finally sit down and start writing it, it's almost like all the details that I haven't been thinking about are suddenly important. Like, what are we going to call the series? And once you have a series, you know, how are you going to name the books? Because everything needs to be some sort of branding. You know, like the Jewel series is the Jewel series just by default because all of the books have a jewel in their title, and the original ones were sapphire, emerald, and topaz. And I just did that because that was the color of their eyes, but I made the color of their eyes that way on purpose, you know, to name the books that way. And so the Jewel series just kind of like fell into place. And the challenge has been with that to constantly come up with new jewels as I write the second generation ones. But with this one, it was something that we knew I'm going to write at least one book a year, if not more, in this series. They're all going to be suspense. They're all going to be in the small town Kentucky. And so we really, really wanted a title of a series that would be long lasting and then something easy to brand. And so we came up with Red Blood and Bluegrass is the name of the series. And then the book title for the first book is Black Belt and White Dress. Black Belt, white dress. And that's really awesome because it's a book about a wedding dress. He's a taekwondo master. She's a black belt, sheriff's deputy, etc. So I'm in the throes of editing that this week. And I'm hoping that I'll be completely finished with it by the end of the week. And that's like a total immersion. Like, I'm doing this video because I promised myself I wouldn't miss so many lately, and this is why we're here. All right, so yay. So that's the series. And then let me think. So today's question is there any character that resonates with you in your books? And so I read a lot of author interviews, and oftentimes the answer of an author is, I can find something of myself in every character. And, you know, that's fine. I can find something of myself in probably most people that I've met. But I think that the question that this reader actually asked was, is there any character that like resembles me in any of the books that I've written? And up until last year, I couldn't answer that question. I've never intentionally placed myself into a book. I have had characters that were main characters that I absolutely didn't agree with their decisions, their life choices, their overall attitude about the world. I try not to put myself in characters. I try not to make all of my values and all of my worldview what my characters are, because then I would end up with all the same characters all the time. And so I intentionally try to pull back from that in order to have like this huge diversity in characters and decisions and worldviews. And it helps me kind of examine, like, if someone had this worldview with these backgrounds and this perspective of everything, how would they make this decision? Because I know that I would do this, but would they do this or this or this, or some subset of this? And so that's how I do my characters. But last year, I was under, like, I agreed to kind of rescue a box set. They needed another author. I had like kind of an idea of what my book could be about. And so I agreed to do it, but I had like 3 or 4 weeks to write the book, edit it, and get it to them. I mean, it was like total and complete. There was no time for me to sit down and develop a character. So like I said, I knew what because it was for the Yesterday's Mail collection, and so it all had to do something with mail. And so I thought, oh, wouldn't it be cool if a package that was being sent to like someone's grandfather got lost in the mail and it came to them, and it was, you know, World War II related, because I'll have a Pacific World War II series coming up next year. So Greg, as the editor of this set for Olivia Kimball Press, came to me with Amanda True, and they both said, can you do this? And I said yes. And so instead of sitting down and saying, okay, I need to develop this character, because I write character-driven stories, and it's important that my characters be fully and well developed at the time of starting to write, because the characters are what drive my stories. And so I just decided I'll just make her an author, and she can have my personality, and that will be easy to do, which was a little bit harder than I thought it would be. But so the answer is yes. Violet Pearl from Chasing Pearl, which is book 4 of the Second Generation Jewel series, the 8th book in the Jewel series. She is like she and her sister were raised by their grandparents in their family's bed and breakfast, and the bed and breakfast had been, or in their family's inn, that had been a bed and breakfast that had been a boarding house. So boom, 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 in College Station, Texas. And Chase Anderson, Barry and Maxine's son, is an Army officer, and he's kind of at a crossroads of, do I want to continue my commission in the military, or do I want to get out? He's like at a point where he can make that decision. And so he takes a long leave. He has leave saved up from a deployment, and he comes home, and he comes back to College Station, where he went to college, to do like a Pee-wee football camp, because he was a football player for Texas A&M. And so and so her family runs this inn. Well, in the past, his grandfather was a high-ranking officer and came to College Station at the onset of World War II on his way to Hawaii. And then, so he stays for, several weeks at this same place, this boarding house, and then goes on and is killed in Pearl Harbor. And so a package that his wife sent him got lost in the mail, but it was addressed to Chase Anderson. And so when it came to the boarding house, to the inn, it was, postmarked 1942 or whatever, and or 1940, I guess December of 1940. And so that began anyway. So Violet Pearl is my personality. So if you want to see how I think, I don't think her outside personality is the same, but her inner thoughts and the way that she immerses herself in her books and the way that she writes and the way that she feels about herself and the way that she thinks and reacts to the world around her is spot on me. And that was an intentional, this is what I'm going to do. And so, yeah. So Pearl, I hate names. Names are like the things that kill me. Violet Pearl from Chasing Pearl is the character that I would most closely relate to if I was going to have to sit down and look at all my books and choose a character. So thank you for that question. I hope you all have a great week. I'm excited because this weekend we have a big party. We have an annual bourbon tasting party, and it's become a thing. And Jeb even dubbed it Bourbon Con 3.0 because this is our third year. And so Gene Rowley, who is our voice artist, is coming from Alabama for our bourbon tasting. And so I'm really excited we get to have Gene and his wife, Mandy, staying with us for the weekend. And so I'm looking forward to that as well as for the party. And having this book done by Friday. That's my goal. So I hope you all have a great week. Enjoy this week. We're at the last 4 weeks of school here where we live, and it's going to be a really busy 4 weeks. So God bless you, and I will see you next week.